All right, Saagar, what are you looking at?
Well, it is an absolutely crazy time right now in America today. On the one hand, we have this old caretaker president who seems barely there. Bizarrely, actually seems to meet the moment. Things are calm. People are going outside. People are pronouncing summer, of whatever pronoun that you want type of summer. Normalcy seems just on the horizon. But beneath the surface, there's some really weird stuff in this country that's going on right now. And it spells warning signs for the future of us. And more importantly, it shows how much of a mistake America made by refusing to fix any of its major problems during the pandemic. Now, one of Crystal and my major goals in going independent was the ability to cover stories which may not get the most clicks, but which are still vitally important to the daily lives of Americans today. Right now, while the media is talking about whether Biden shook hands with Putin or the latest developments on the January 6th Commission, every day Americans are going without, well, pretty much everything. I'm sure some of you may have noticed, we are in the midst of a great reopening of America, but we also have a national shortage crisis. Not just a shortage crisis of a particular good, but a shortage crisis of everything. Here's a short list of some of the things that we have national shortages in. Semiconductors, new cars, used cars, rental cars, plastics, palm oil, truckers, Uber drivers, houses, lumber, toilet paper, diapers, furniture, chicken, bacon, hot dogs, cheese, coffee, olive oil, chlorine, corn, which is somehow possible in America, oxygen for medical purposes, and labor. Now, luckily, they solved the most important shortage of all, which was Chick-fil-A sauce. But this leads to a question that I had when I found out about all this. What the hell is going on? What's going on, my friends, is we're being revealed for the clown country, which we are. At the beginning of this pandemic, we all found out that we don't even produce vital medical supplies in our own country, and we actually make all of it in China. Given China's our geopolitical rival, that seems bad. And since we live in a clown country, we spent the entire last 16 months arguing over whether masks work or Dr. Seuss or whether Biden can say the Pledge of Allegiance instead of, how do we exactly function normally? And now that Biden is president, a lot of the country has gone back to sleep. We're seeing the consequences of all of this in real time. America is unable to deliver the most basic consumer goods to its populace. In the case of a chlorine shortage, it could literally lead to the state of Oregon running out of clean drinking water. People cannot buy cars. New moms are spending a fortune on diapers, even if they can get them. And if you're like me and you've been through a drive-thru lately, you're going to find out quickly we have a national shortage of chicken, which is one of the most cheaply consumed meats in the US. All of this comes down to the basic fact that we make almost nothing we need on a daily basis to survive or thrive right here in the US. We are dependent on Asia to deliver it to us. And that delivery system is built in the last 2 decades and it's falling apart. Shipping in particular is a great example of how precarious that we've lived our lives. Almost all of logistics in the US in the last 2 decades has relied on something called just-in-time delivery. As in, right as you're about to run out, you get a new delivery. That way, you don't have to waste precious space storing your stuff. You just have a continuous supply. Now look, it's a lot more efficient. The problem is, if something goes wrong, you're screwed, which is where we're at right now. Efficiency is great for cost, but it's terrible for resiliency. This is what happened in the shipping industry, where price wars in shipping led companies to keep building larger and larger and larger mega ships. It reduces marginal costs, and they have it so that they can only profitably sail whenever you're 100% full. But then, global shipping ground to a halt in the early months of the pandemic. Nothing was moving on the seas. Once that happened, the whole system went haywire. To make matters worse, for all of Trump's talk about correcting trade imbalances between the US and China and being more resilient as a country, he miserably failed while he was president. In fact, FreightWaves data shows that import volume from China via ocean shipping is up, listen to this, 54% year over year. Yes, more than 50%. While export volume to China, as in from the US to China, it's up 4%. So we're importing 50% more goods than we were before the pandemic from China and exporting only 4% more. We have somehow become even more reliant on the Chinese to deliver our goods for us as a result of this pandemic. Here's the real rub. All of this was preventable. We sacrifice our national vitality at the hands of short-term profits. If you can't buy a car or a PS5 right now, it's because of a shortage in semiconductors. Now, some companies are waking up to the fact maybe we shouldn't have let our domestic manufacturing capacity go abroad. So Intel, one of them, has announced it's going to spend $20 billion to create a new plant in Arizona. Great, right? But guess what? That's $6 billion less than Intel spent in 2018 and 2019 on buying back its own stock to juice its stock price. As the New York Times writes, quote, in the decade leading up to the pandemic, American companies spent more than $6 trillion to buy their own shares, adding, the benefits were for investors and executives, whose pay packages include hefty allocations of stock, have come at the expense of whatever the company might have otherwise done with its money, investing to expand capacity or stockpiling parts. You know what the worst part is? Nobody's done a damn plan to fix any of this. Experts quoted in the New York Times all said that while this was a wake-up call to the precariousness of the global supply system, that short-term profit incentives built into the companies themselves will always triumph in the long run. To put that in plain English, our system is designed to incentivize companies to sacrifice everything at the altar of the short-term dollar, even if it means screwing the nation overall in a time of crisis. Even though that's already happened, the same incentives remain if there's another pandemic or another crisis. So I have a better idea. Let's change the incentive. The market is a reflection of us and our priorities. It didn't have to be this way, and it wasn't always. It came about because of 30 years of terrible trade policy, bad tax policy, bad regulation. It's a crisis of our own making, and it was all a choice. The good news is that if it was a choice to get here, it's also a choice to get out. And my hope in doing this monologue is simply you'll all just be more aware of the true price of everything around you, and that you demand from your elected representatives that we do business a different and a better way. Crystal, that's the really thing I wanted to come across.